Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of Let's Play Sierra Games! The feast or famine, apparently, because I can go weeks without playing and posting anything, and then sometimes I just can't stop posting. So this time we are going to cover what I previously called EcoQuest, and someone on the Sierra forums goes by the name of Not Bob Smith, I believe it was, reminded me actually it shouldn't be EcoQuest. It's probably EcoQuest. Because it is about the ecosystem. And the reason I was calling it EcoQuest, and I've called it EcoQuest since day one of this game coming out, is because there was a game back in the day for the Sega called Echo the Dolphin. And that was ECCO. But it is a very similar game where the main character that you control is a dolphin. In this game, you don't control a dolphin, but there is a dolphin that stays with you for about 98% of the game. And so, in my head, I guess I just always assumed this was Echo Quest. Which, EC does make an ek, and then their O, Echo. But it is undoubtedly Eco, because it is more about the environment. Although, you know what, since it is a dolphin that is with you, Echo could still work. But it is undoubtedly Eco. So in EcoQuest, and I'll probably still mess up and call it EcoQuest throughout this commentary, I'm sure of it. But the game starts, again, this game was made in the 80s, and back then, it was there was a big push to be eco-friendly. And be concerned about recycling, your footprint on the planet, and stuff like that. And this game is literally all about that. And there were cartoons back in the day like Captain Planet and stuff like that that further enforce this for, trying to impress young children to be aware of what you're doing, don't litter and stuff like that. And growing up in the 80s as I did, it worked for me. I'm definitely I wouldn't say a full-on tree hugger, but I love nature. I love animals more so than I do people most of the time. And so this game is very much that. So I can't tell you why when this game first came out, why I never finished it. I vaguely, very, 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 very vaguely remember playing up to getting underwater and getting to where the fish, not even to the fish city, or the fish town, but getting underwater and seeing the Roman, Greek kind of setting that was underwater. And I don't remember anything past that. And I think I only ever played it once to get to that point. So in playing it for the channel this time, the game was very new. Nothing even up to that point that I kind of vaguely remember getting to. Nothing in here was muscle memory at all. I was having to figure it out as I was playing it for the channel, which was kind of cool. It kind of felt like playing a Sierra game for the first time, like it was brand new to me. And this game is definitely designed for a much younger audience. So it definitely feels like this should be played with, you and your kid kind of learning about the environment and stuff like that. So the puzzles were overall much easier, which was kind of nice. So I didn't feel like I really struggled too much. There was a few. You'll see me wandering around in circles sometimes trying to figure out what to do. But I'm not going to lie, I was pleasantly surprised how much I actually really enjoyed this game. But you are the main character, which is the young boy Adam, and he has, during my talk and we missed it, but he has picked up a trash bag that you will use throughout the game to basically collect garbage and, help clean up the environment. One of the first things that we see here is that there was a bird covered in oil, and the dad explains how to properly remove oil and what the method is. And so a lot of research went into this game, and to get the facts accurate on how to do things. That information on the chalkboard that I just clicked a moment ago is very important to know, and I do love that they do that little King's Quest V reference. Even though the game was relatively easier, I did not even get anywhere near maximum points. So the maximum points is 725, and I think I got I think like 670 or 672 or something like that, maybe 680. So I was still quite a few points shy of the max score. Um, so I am curious of what I may have missed. I haven't looked yet. I finished the game this weekend over Memorial Day weekend. A little bit before that, I think I finished it on Friday, Saturday. The days blur. But I wanted to go ahead and get in here and talk about the commentary. So what happened with Freddy Farkas, which took like almost a year to finish, I couldn't remember what the game was about in some spots, so I just kind of blabbed, if you will. I blab all the time, but more so during the Freddy Farkas commentary. One thing I'll say, so that door that I came through a moment ago, if you've watched this channel, listen to my commentary, what I like to do is not use any form of walkthrough and see what I can do, how long it takes me, because there's no rush. Like, sometimes if I get stuck for a very, very long time, I record it all right. I will edit out if it's excessively long. So if I was stuck on something for 3 hours, I'm not going to leave 3 hours of footage of me walking in circles within the game. I'll just trim it so that I can remember that I did struggle in a spot, but not 3 hours worth of struggling, so I can usually talk to it. But what I like to do, as I said, is not use any form of walkthrough, not get any hints, except for that one time in Freddy Farkas. So in this game, to get through that door, it was a little bit disappointing because I was clicking all around that room. If you saw, I was like looking at the door, looking at the computer, trying to see if it was written down somewhere for basically the character to find. And when I couldn't find it and I can't leave that room, I thought, okay, it's probably in the copy protection, which makes sense. You're in this room, you can't get past it. You need the copy protection to get out of that door. And sure enough, it was. But it is literally if you've looked at any Sierra manual, at the very end, they usually have a quick little walkthrough that walks you through like the first 15 to 20 steps of what to do. That's where the combo is. The combo is literally in the walkthrough right next to it, and it's also in the walkthrough, but it's literally right next to it, so you can't help but see part of the walkthrough. Thankfully, I did not see anything that I didn't already know. I didn't read the walkthrough portion. I just saw the number because it was bolded, and I saw it on the side, so I grabbed it. I do think it's interesting that when you do the combo on the door, at the very bottom is EC and then 0. Now, normally the 0 would be in the middle. You have, 1 through 9, 1, 2, 3 in the top, and then 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8, 9. You have 0 in the bottom center, but they purposely, I think, moved it to the end so that the E, which is the enter key, the C, which is the clear key, so you can clear whatever numbers you type out, and then the 0 at the end. When they did that, that essentially spells echo. So, sorry, eco. See, I told you, I knew I'd mess it up talking in here. But it spells EC and then the 0, so you have eco. So I'm pretty sure they designed that on purpose. One of the things that I am insanely curious to look up after I do the commentary is you can see my pet in the back, pacing back and forth, and he talks about needing his water, and I take his water bottle to fill it, but I never figure out, I should have probably checked, it doesn't make sense that you would use this pool water because that should be salt water because the dolphin's in there, but there might be like a sink or something that I'm just missed. So there's stuff like that. So, my poor animal in the cage who is desperate for water, I never got him his water as I went on my adventure. And so, eventually, after you play with Echo, oh my gosh, I said Echo. And his name's not even Eco. After you play with the dolphin, Delphinius, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, you discover that Delphinius can talk. Now, in the Sierra forum, when I posted my playthrough, someone said, oh, there's a talkie version of the game. So I quickly Googled it just to see what that sounds like, because I played the Freddy Farkas talkie version. And Delphinius is female, or at least to me, sounds female. Now, all the names of all the fish are all related to a real person's name of Roman, Greek, whatever type mythology or whatever. And I can't remember for the life of me, because Roman Greek is not my strong suit, obviously, since I keep mashing the two together. if Delphinius is actually female. In my head, when I was playing this game through the text version, I just imagined Delphinius being male, um, and I don't know why. I just assumed male. Um, so here's an example of where I talked about how Adam has his trash bag and he can pick up the trash. Usually, it is not mandatory to pick up the trash, so you'll see trash later on down on the ocean floor. By picking up the trash, you do get points, but for that puzzle with the ship's oil, it's mandatory to get past the ship. And one of the things that you see that comes into play later is that there is a boy on the boat who lets go of his balloons, and the balloons kind of sail into the air. And that comes into play later because that's always been a big thing of when people release balloons into the air, what that does to the environment, whether it's gets snagged in the ocean, so some animal gets snagged in it, or birds get snagged in it and it impacts their flight. Whatever the case may be, there's definitely a bunch of eco-friendly messages here to be found. And see, this is where I vaguely remember getting to, like literally to this part right here, and then never getting past it. So I don't know if I sat down in one playthrough when this game first came out and got this far. And I don't know if I stopped because I thought, oh, this feels too childish for me or whatever. I have no idea why I stopped playing, but this is as far as I actually remember ever getting in the game. And again, there was certainly no muscle memory getting even to this part. It all felt very new playing the game. But again, by the time I finished this game, I was truly surprised how much I actually really enjoyed it. Like, this is actually a amazing, great game. And I noticed that one of the people responsible for the game design is Jane Jensen, who did Gabriel Knight. If you've ever played any Gabriel Knight game, you know that Jane Jensen is incredible at developing characters. So I don't know if it's her hand in this that makes the characters that you encounter, the other fish who speak, so charming and endearing. But definitely, I was genuinely surprised how much I really enjoyed the game. I did. I will say that I accidentally did mess up. So there's the I forgot what those are called, where there's a picture missing and you have to move all the pieces to actually make the picture. This thing. So there's an option to click help here. So you can move the pieces around without clicking help to get an idea. But when you click help, it'll move some of the pieces in the right place. So you kind of start getting an idea. I don't want to spend like an hour here trying to figure out this picture. Let's just move forward anyway and just go from here. This part of once we get to the opportunity to talk to the center here with those pillars, that was also a little bit, I thought it was a little tough to figure out, and it is a lot of chance that happened in order for me to get those pillars correctly aligned. You'll see a little bit later. So I've been told to basically seek out the mayor and the protector of the green, or something like that, the garden of green, something of the green. I'm looking for two people. And so here's the little fish village, where individual fish need assistance in all the different ways. And as I said, so you can see the trash on the floor. You can use your recycle thing to recycle it. And then what's cool is if something is useful and you try to recycle it, it lets you know, hey, maybe that's useful. So then you know to actually pick it up versus recycle. And if you try to go into these houses before you've got the right thing, the mantis, how do you pronounce that? I'm totally blanking on how they're pronounced. He essentially asks for a pass, and you will not get that until you assist the mayor. And it's good to note that he's all blue, and there's a reason for it, because you'll have to help him soon. So the trident is obviously there for a reason, and then it says that you can pull it, but it doesn't come loose. And then when you give the horn to the other guy, it says, hey, the trident comes loose. And now there's the thing with the three eyes, and you use the trident to poke it. And then the oracle, which is the fish that you need to find and talk to, she'll give you move this thing. She'll give you some riddles to solve based on that picture that we accidentally completed too. And so when she asks you a question, you click on the picture to say, this is the answer, like whether it's man, the ocean, or the heart, or the dog. I was a little disappointed that the last riddle was not the dog, because it seemed like it was the dog to me, because it talks about love and compassion, but it's actually the heart. And the good thing is, if you mess up on the riddle, there isn't like a certain amount of times that you can only try it. Every time you mess up, you can just stab the trident into the thing, and she'll repeat the last riddle. And it's funny, like, the answer that I'm missing here is heart. And it's because that heart is kind of between several tile pieces. But that was the answer. And then you basically discover that there was a prophecy of a man or someone from the surface coming to assist and undo what's been done. And so that is you, Adam. And then once you've talked to the oracle, your dolphin friend, Delphinius, reappears. And then he tells you that the mayor can be found somewhere indoors. One of the things that I will say is a bit, and so now that we've spoken to the oracle, the mayor is now in place, but there are a few screens where, like for example, from that previous screen I was just on, to get here, it's hard to tell where that trigger is to move him in the right direction, because sometimes he just swims up versus I'm trying to get him to come to this like cathedral thing. And so there's a few places like that happens where, I didn't know I could actually swim right, So we'll get to it here in a moment, but there's a flashlight fish in this ear. And I was unaware that I could swim to the right and that there were actually more screens over there to go explore. And so there's another screen where when I swam by it, because like where the flashlight fish is at, he's inside this statue's head, and when I swam behind it, I thought it was basically things of hair, like curly hair or whatever, and it actually turns out to be it's an opening. So that also took me a while to discover, and it was again by accident. I think I was clicking for him to swim by, and he swam up into that opening. So I do wish that the passage of where you can move was a little more clear, because like when they do all this seaweed on like the left or the right side, it makes it look like you can't swim in that direction because it doesn't look like there's an opening. And in some cases, like you have to click a specific area to move east or west or north or south. It's not like it's the whole screen. And then here's the columns I was talking about. So you want to basically match the left side to the right side, both top, middle, and bottom. And it was just literally getting the middle and then trying to align everything else. There was a lot of random clicking in some cases to get it. But overall, it wasn't hard. It's not nearly as hard as trying to figure out whatever those pictures are where you're missing one and you have to move the tile around. That would have probably taken me way too long. In hindsight, had I tried to do it, even knowing the photo, would not have been relevant or entertaining to how to solve it. So now we've talked to the senator, and he wants us to talk to the fish people. And so now that we've talked to the senator, Delphinius, I think I'm pronouncing that right, basically says, hey, we just need to work on that and we can get like a pass or something. So this is one of those scenes where, going to the left just a little bit gets to this screen. So you see trash all over the place, and so cleaning it, picking it up, it gives you points. And so when you, or I should say, once you clean all of that area, you get points. And so the thing that your father gave you in the beginning that explains how to get the oil off of objects, you go over here, put it on the whale, and you see it slowly dissolve the oil off the coral reef. And so I can't remember his name. It's like the Guardian of the Green or the something of the Green. Guardian of the Greens, yeah, so I was right. He comes out and he basically says, hey, what'd you do? And then you're like, hey, I just did this thing. I wasn't trying to hurt it. I'm just trying to help. And he says, oh, wow, you actually did it. You did a good job. And then so he gives you something and then something drops. It's a little shell. And now that we have a little shell, the mayor was talking about how he uses the mask. So now we have a shell that we can give him to use instead of that mask. Because previously when he was talking to you, he says, he was so nervous that he's being pinched by his old shell. And then so after you do that, you swim out, and then everyone suddenly bolts away and a huge shadow passes by, and Delphinius knocks you into a vase. And a huge manta ray creature goes swimming by, and you discover it is something known as the Flesh Eater. It's a huge manta ray that is corrupt and evil, undoubtedly by the toxins that filled the ocean floor. So now, in the fish city, again, the guy shows up, you show him the pass, and he says, yep, okay, you got a pass. So all the little areas that have a light next to them mean that there's a fish in there that needs assistance. And so, for example, there's one there, a fish comes down, gets sucked into the plastic, and so you need to help him get out of the plastic. And each one of these fish that you help will give you something, obviously, in return for helping them that obviously moves the game forward. And you have to be kind of careful because you'll see things like this where it's basically I forgot what those are called, the things that hold like a six-pack of Coke. When he gets tangled in it, this one I would fight against because you free the fish by cutting him free of it, so it falls to the ground. So you still want to pick it up so that no other fish get impacted by it, and obviously to clean up litter. And it says, Adam picks up the thing and puts it in the trash. He should have remembered there's one more thing to do, which would be to cut the circular areas that the sodas would normally fit in so that no fish basically gets caught in it, or no dolphins, dorsal or whatever gets caught in this circular area that normally a soda head would go into. My argument is, if that fish was caught in it, and in order to get him free, I had to cut him free, that would mean that that thing is cut up already. Like, I cut it up to get that fish free. So there's probably somewhere where I didn't get the full points. I probably got dinged for not cutting it first, like while it was on the floor, clicking the thing that you get, the sharp shell, to cut it apart. So I call bogus on that one, because to free the fish, I would have had to cut it. So, whatever. I think that's bogus. So this fish is starving, and he's like, I'm going to just pack it up and leave. He's got this cool bro vibe to him. But you take the urchins that you just got and put it on the coral reef, and they eat algae. So that frees up the coral reef so that this fish can eat. And then he says he'll join the meeting after all. Which is, sorry, if I forgot to talk about, the mayor wants all the fish to show up at the senator's hall so that he can do a meeting, a press conference, whatever you want to call it. And then when you talk to the guard and why he's so blue, he basically essentially says, it's because I'm holding my breath, even though I'm a mammal and I need to breathe air. I'm tired of when I go to the surface, I keep getting dinged by boats and their propellers. And so this is also another true thing, that this type of stuff happens. And as you're swimming up, you can see a bunch of litter floating to the ground. So now you have to find a way to essentially cover this ship's propellers so that mammals are not struck by them. And before we leave the area, the pool where Delphinius was, there are 2 boats that are against the wall, and I had accidentally clicked on them to see what those were on the bottom, and it talks about how there's cages that cover the propeller. So I've got the cage, which I picked up, but when you try to put the cage on the propeller, it says you need something to mount it on there. And so this was one of them that had me for a little while, because I was like, I have nothing that's going to mount that. So I tried using the rope, tried cutting the rope, but this was a struggle for me. Spoiler alert, there are 4 screws to be found, and you have to help, I believe it's one of the other fish, to get it. So I'm up here too soon and I don't realize it. Because overall, most of the things that you have to do in here, it's not like you have to go do something far along the way and come back. They're usually pretty much, what you need is you already have. But in this case, there was other fish I should have helped before trying to do this. So I come back down here and see what other fish I need to help. Oh no, this is the one. So he's the one who's caught in the soda thing. How he had been dipping for fish. So he's the soda one that's cutting the soda. And see, you have to cut him free. So this is the one where I get dinged for, I assume I get dinged for not getting full points. See, it says he's forgotten to do something. And that's why I'm angrily shaking the mouse at that part if you watch the playthrough. Because I was like, that is bogus. I cut him free. That thing should be cut. Alright. And so now we have a turtle who's got something stuck in his throat, which happens to be the string and the balloon for what we saw. And it's a red deflated balloon on the floor. So we know that this turtle has unfortunately swallowed that kid's deflated balloon. When you try to pull on it, it breaks. So you need the tweezers that you just got a moment ago to free it out of his, so he can breathe. And then he too agrees to go to the mayor's meeting, if you will. And the reason for this, I should go even further back. So the whale, who is basically the king of this area, he's gone missing. And I believe it's pronounced Cetus, Cetus, if I remember correctly. And he's gone missing and no one knows where he's at. And so that's your thing, is you're trying to find out where Cetus went and see if you can find that. So you're helping all these fish and stuff like that so you can gather some clues, because the crab, who is currently the quote-unquote senator, he's basically in charge while Cetus is missing. This is one of them that took me a moment on how to get it out. It's weird because it's another one that's like logically weird, because the ammonia or the bleach is in the water, but you think that it would kind of bleed out. And then so you get the screws after helping that fish, but you have to pump the water out that fish's window to clear the bleach, which is weird. So the jar, when I tried to open it, says you're not strong enough, you'll need something. So I thought after helping him that he would open it for me, but he doesn't. But there is someone else that will open it. So the lionfish is still not doing well, but you take that pump and put it in the window, and that pumps out the bleach. And the lionfish doesn't initially want to go to this meeting because he's like, no one likes me. The needles on me are very, very, very venomous. And then Adam convinces him to go because, he's saying the mayor needs everyone there, and, everyone will appreciate you being there. And so the lionfish gives you one of his needles and says, hey, be very careful with it because it has a lot of toxin in it. So once you get that last fish out, the session happens. And the mayor, if you will, says, hey, you did it, everyone showed up, everyone agrees. We'll all do something better to help with the environment now that we understand it more. And then Delphinius is talking about how the flesh eater is still out there. So clearly we'll have to do something about the flesh eater as well. First, now that the mayor has given us the mask, we can come to the oracle and say, hey, you said that we needed a gift given to us by trust. Here's that mask. And then the oracle reveals that the one to save us is a human child. And then that's you. And then the oracle gives a clue, if you will. You need armor, some wire, and a few other things like that. So obviously, with most prophecies, what is said is not 100% accurate, so you probably don't actually need a suit of armor, but something that might be similar to a suit of armor. And here's the flashlight fish. So you can see in the ear there's like a blue thing, there's like a blue light, and you can see bubbles coming from there. Oh, you know what? Let's see. So if you swim to it, there's also a fish that is kissing itself in the mirror. And then Delphinius explains that it's not one of the wakened fish, so it does not know how to talk. And then when Delphinius looks in the ear, he says, oh, hey, it's one of the nocturnal fish. And then when you ask nocturnal, he says, yeah, there's fish that live, pretty much strictly in the dark, and they only come out during the night to hunt. And this fish apparently got scared away from wherever its natural habitat is, which should probably be something like a dark cave. So that's a hint that we need this fish as a source of light. And I think I was stuck here probably for half an hour to an hour. So I think some of it got trimmed out. But this flashlight fish got me for a while. And then there's the prophecy. So if you ever forget what the prophecy is, there's a scroll in your inventory that you can look at it to remember what the prophecy is and what you might need. But this is one of those times because that plant over to the right, I didn't think I could swim to the right when you actually can. So I thought I was pretty much stuck here. Like there's nothing at the previous screens to get. Can't swim that way. Can't swim up or down. So it really felt like what I needed I should already have. And see, I swam to the right. But again, you have to go right where the middle is because I swam to the right at the bottom and it didn't let me go to the next screen. So that messed me up for a while because I thought, okay, well, whatever I need, I have. I just need a way to figure it out. So I'm clicking on that plant that's moving, thinking, oh, that's like a hint. Like I need to do something with the plant. And then Delphinius is like, don't touch the plant. It's alive. So again, going back to what I was saying earlier, I wish it was more clear that I could have gone right over on that screen. See, and Delphinius says, hey, we should go east, which is to the right. Assuming north is top, west is to the left. And so you see me shake the mouse going, oh, okay, you can go this way. So we see a clownfish with the thing that it swims by. It uses it like a trap, which will come into play later. But right behind where Delphinius is, you can swim up. To me, that does not look like a passage you can swim up. It kind of looks like teeth. So I assumed it was like the back of the skull, like hair or something like that. The not actual hair, but the statue's hair. So the fact that you can swim up there, I don't discover for a while. And then there's an octopus. So I thought the octopus was stuck on something, so I thought I was going to try to be helpful. But when you click on it, the octopus grabs you and then slaps you. And he says that octopus are antisocial and that they will fight one another, which I am ashamed to say that is a clue that took me a little bit too long to figure out. But I know octopus are strong, so I thought, oh, let me try to put the glass down and come back and see if he opens it. And he does. We've seen videos of octopus that can open glass like that, so I thought, okay, cool. But still, that wire thing is there, and I'm pretty sure like I need to get it, need to do something with it, but that octopus will not let go of it. So the fact that Delphinius gave me a clue that, octopus are antisocial and they will fight one another totally went over my head as to what I was supposed to do, because in my inventory is nothing but a mirror to show the octopus and another octopus. That one was tricky. The hammer basically corrodes the wooden part, so you have to recycle the head of it. You don't have to. Again, it's for points. And you can see oil being drilled in the back. Again, went right over the fact that I have a mirror. So if we continue swimming right, we can see that there is a cave here. But it's pretty dark. You can't see anything, can't do anything. And then Delphinius says, hey, we should get out of here. It's too dark, I can't see. Also, that toilet that I keep swimming by, you're supposed to do something with that, which was kind of weird. So at least now we know where we think the flashlight fish needs to go. That's probably the dark cave we need to use him at. So again, I said pretty much most of the puzzles were easy, and I did say that the flashlight fish was probably the most difficult. And it finally dawned on me that I have the mirror to show the octopus so that it makes them basically leave, and then you get the thing that's in there. And what's cool is like you can click on the different things around there, and Delphinius will tell you what they are. And then I assume what I just did right there is you put the can or the jar that's too tight to open on the floor, and then you hide in there, and then the octopus will open it for you. And while you're down on that screen, the word help shows up, and then you see that there is a crab. And so you have the sharp shell that you can use to basically free him. And this is very tragic because you can see dolphins back there. It talks about how they died in the net. The game talks about how a lot of times these exact fishing nets that they use for fishermen will sometimes get cut loose, or the fishermen, if it gets too tangled, they'll just cut the line, and let the line float or sink in the water, which ends up catching more fish. And even when they have a good working line, their whole objective is catching fish, and they don't care what kind of fish. Like, they may be fishing for a particular type of fish, and if they happen to catch and kill dolphins on accident, so be it. So the game like really hits home with our footprint as people and how we impact our environment around us. Not just the ocean, in this case the ocean, but it's weird to, for example, I go to the grocery store, and if I buy a package of hamburger meat, I don't give it much consideration where that hamburger meat is coming from or how that animal was killed or treated prior to its death. And it's probably something I don't want to think about, because I'd probably become a vegetarian. But I just got the things out of the toilet, so now we've got a little bit more stuff. But we still don't have everything that we need for the flashlight fish. So it talks about how the clownfish lures other fish, so I tried to use a fish lure on the clownfish, but that didn't do anything. So it was cool to be playing this game like this and trying to figure it out. And so we have the jar now. I forgot, we did get the jar unsealed by the octopus, so now we have the flashlight fish. I forgot what we need is after we use the flashlight fish. So we're going to swim all the way back to the cave, because now we have a flashlight fish. And so we open it and let the fish out, and it kind of swims into an area, which is, in hindsight, even Delphinius gives a clue that, hey, something feels wrong here, like my sonar is feeling weird, especially as we begin to remove these rocks on the wall, and it becomes more clear what may be happening here. So obviously it's kind of a Hollywood gimmick that anytime something is toxic, it's always green. Like, it's always green and it's always glowing. So whether you've watched a movie and you see toxic stuff on the ground just pouring down the street, it's toxic because it's green and glowing. The toxic stuff is never red or blue, it's always green and glowing. So as you're peeling back these rocks, you kind of know that there's probably some kind of toxicity happening here. And so you peel away the rocks, and eventually what will happen is something falls on the ground. And when you open it, it looks like a little container. And it is locked. So once again, trying a few things with the lock, trying to pick it with the lionfish's fin needle thing, because I thought, that makes sense. You kind of pick the lock, but that doesn't work, and it says you need to loosen it up. So you take the rag that has some of the oil on it to loosen that rock. And if you try to swim in there, Delphinius says, "Don't do it. You're going to get sick and die," because I don't even feel good. So now we need to find a way to unlock that little, I don't know what you would call that, like a containment container? I guess a container. So we need to find a way to unlock that. And to me, it looked like I was surprised what was in that container, because it looks relatively small to me. Like, when I was looking at it, I was thinking it was like this little 1-inch by 1-inch thing. But what's inside that container is significantly larger than what would fit in a small 1-inch thing. So now we need to find the key. And I talk about how I doomed that light fish, because now the toxic water is clearly coming out of that spot, and that poor light fish is just right next to it. So now we need to find a key, and I have zero idea when I was playing this, like, where I would find this key. And you can see I'm jiggling the mouse furiously because I was clicking to swim to the next screen over. Literally clicked just right there, and he ended up swimming up. And so now there's a chest and a pirate, and he's got like a thing shoved through his chest, so if you try to get it, you'll fall the first time, but it talks about how it's loosened. Inside the chest is nothing but a crab, or is there? But anyway, so you want to try to basically get the stick thing, and then the key that was next to the pirate has fallen into the water, and it's right on the ground. Easy to pick up. But then a fish decides to grab it and swim with it. So you have to chase this fish through several screens to the left and then over back to the right, exactly right where you started, and discover something has happened to that poor fish. You would think Delphinius could stop this fish faster than I could, but, whatever. And then when you get here, he says, "Oh, we lost him." And then I almost called it an amoeba. Now I'm forgetting what they're called. That thing basically burps, so and the clownfish is gone. So you use the lure to lure it out, and you get the key. So now we have a key for that little, I thought was a little small cabinet thing, or not cabinet, container. So we're making some progress now. We're moving fast. So we've already oiled it to loosen it, so now we have a key, and not sure why the pirate's key works, but the pirate's key works. And so there is a containment suit in there, and Adam's face and head are not covered, but that's all right. And when we go in there, we can see a toxicity barrel, or a toxic barrel. And so, thankfully, I saved right here, because as I was walking around, I accidentally click out, and then Adam says, "Whew, that's hot," because of toxicity. And he says, "Hey, someone dumped some stuff in there. And we should probably do something, but I'm no expert, but my father told me about how to make those things, and there's directions on the chalkboard before you leave your house area. It's in that first room. When you look at the chalkboard, it tells you how to basically use the rope, the walkie-talkie, to combine those items to make a transmitter." And so that's what we're going to do. And so I was like, okay, put the transmitter on the thing. Nope. So let's just go right outside the cave and use the transmitter, but it won't let you. And so I was like, all right. So I made a floaty thing, but I can't use it. So let's go inside. And here's where I think there is a dead end, because if you try to swim in there, he says, don't do it. And so I just tried to use the transmitter, but now the containment suit is not in my inventory. So I have no way of going in there to put the transmitter. So if I am incorrect about that being a dead end, if you exit before you do the transmitter and he takes off his outfit, how do you get back in there? So we did I restored back, thankfully, in that area, did the transmitter, tied it to the barrel, and then that signals the boats above to the toxicity in the water, and they do a cleanup. Now it talks about how there's still stuff around, but normally that would not just be cleaned up in a day. Like, even if there was toxicity, that stuff would be still seeped into the soil and stuff like that. Now that mountain over there in the horizon, the first thing I notice, it kind of looks like a giant mouth. It looks very ominous, and there's a reason for it. This one also got me stuck for a while. You can't get into the door, and it doesn't seem like anything you have can get through it. Can't turn the gun. And you can see this also tricked me for a while, because if you look above the window to the right, like the one right above Adam, and then look above his head, there's another white line. I thought that was like the edge of the boat. But if you look closely, I see it now after I fixed this and figured out what it was. You can see the line runs from the spear gun, which is used for whaling, to behind the door, and then it goes up, and then it goes out to the right side of the door. Then it's pulled tight around the top of the ship and then goes forward more. So to me, I thought, when I was originally playing this, because I did not notice the detail that it is at the top of the door also and then pulled to the right, I just thought that this gun had been fired into the inside of the thing, and that's why the door was jammed. So we just need to find a way to unjam the door. And so this, and there's only so much you can't move. You can't move up or back, or really. You can move back to where you were, but you can't move up towards that cave, for example. And then the flesh eater shows up and chases Adam and Delphinius. And so there are several screens. You don't have to do anything. This is all cutscene, if you will, of trying to get away. And feeling helpless, Adam and Delphinius fail to look in front of them and then get caught in a net. And rather than Flesh Eater basically finishing you guys off, he circles and basically gives Adam time to basically cut himself free. Delphinius says, "You have to do this. Like, you're in the prophecy. I'm not. Leave me to my fate." And Adam tries to argue with him, but then the Flesh Eater takes off with Delphinius. Now, if that were me, Delphinius has been a pretty good friend, even though they said, "Hey, just go do what you're supposed to do." I would have probably still gone after Delphinius rather than searching for Cetus first, because Delphinius was like a friend, right? So you want to watch out for your friends. But that's not what the story does here. You can't go save Delphinius first. You have to find Cetus. first. So now we're back here. I think the only thing I didn't try is using the trident, which is quite used a bit. And once you do that, the door springs open, and then you can clearly see that the line is pulled tight, and then you hear a sound. So if you swim through the ship and come out the other side, you can see that the rope is pulled tight upward, and you just, at this point, just start following it. And what I know from diving, you technically can't do that. You're supposed to stop every, I forgot how many 100 feet or whatever, or else the oxygen in your lungs will basically cause you to get sick. I think it's called diver sickness or whatever. But the oxygen needs to basically have a chance to decompress as well. And so you find your quest here. You find Cetus, and he's not looking good. So trying to use the healing potion, it says won't do any good. There's still a harpoon shoved in him. And this got me to figure out, like, I was like, how do, it says, like when you click on his mouth, it says you can't get there from here. But it's not very clear as he kind of like passes out. So now we're going to try to swim back. And once he's passed out, you see his mouth opening and closing. So then you can swim in his mouth. Once you do that, there's the harpoon, which you can now use the saw that you got to basically saw the tip of the harpoon. I tried to push it from the inside, but you can't. Tried to put the healing potion in his mouth, which seems the most logical choice, but you can't. So then what you have to do is swim out of his mouth, swim back to him, and then you can pull the harpoon out. And then once you pull the harpoon out, the healing potion that, I want to say it was the Guardian of the Greens, I think he's the one that gives it to you, that healing potion will heal Cetus. And then he says, Flesh Eater, your time has come. So Flesh Eater basically set him up to be speared. And so Flesh Eater is pretty much just torching Delphinus, who still, as a dolphin, needs to surface to breathe. And it's talking about how Delphinus is suffocating. And then Cetus basically calls out to Flesh Eater to challenge him. And the Flesh Eater responds. And so it's very obvious at this point that it is I was trying to use the needle in the harpoon gun, which I thought would have made the most sense to shoot him. But then first you have to go save Delphinus and cut him free so that he can breathe and go to the surface. And he says, hey, I have to go breathe. I won't be able to help here. This part was tricky, because it's clear that you need to use the lion's fish needle. But you'll see, and I think I trimmed out I think it's probably like another 15 minutes of me trying to use it on the guy, but then he just bats me away. Now, I'm not 100% certain, but I think you have to click it right before he gets to Cetus. So you kind of have to click it on him right when he's near the whale. Otherwise, he just continues to bat you away, because you can see that it says, I just have to figure this out somehow. And the thing is, I tried to move, but the move is grayed out, so you're stuck on this screen. And all the other things tell you it won't do. So it's very clear that it's the lionfish needle. But again, just keep getting batted away. So this felt a little bit more like chance than it did accuracy. So right before he got to the top of Cetus is when I clicked on him, and then that seems to do it, where it says, hey, it looks like the needle's taking effect. He's poisoned, but it probably won't be, he's not dead, but there's a good chance that in the time that he is recuperating, the toxicity which has been cleared out may be cleared out of him, and he may become a normal manta ray once again. And so, like the king that you are, with trident in hand, you ride on the back of Cetus and all the fish that you've helped, and other mammals, because dolphin and stuff like that, They show up and say, "Hey, awesome, you did a great job, you're amazing." Except for the one guy who's the French guy who's like, I could have done better, one of me. So it's like, again, the game took me a total of 3 hours to play. Um, so I sped it up to only be an hour of commentary because I knew I could probably talk to everything in the game within an hour. Again, genuinely surprised how much I actually really, really, really enjoyed this game. And so the fish thank Adam, and Delphinius, Cetus says, "Hey, Delphinius, it's a long swim. Take your friend back." And Adam says, "Will I see you again?" And Delphinus says, "You and your dad are divers. There's no doubt we'll see each other again." And I love, if you look, that Cetus's constellation is in the stars. And so at the very end, after all the credits go by, that's why I zoom towards the constellation. Because I thought that was actually pretty cool that they put Cetus's constellation in the stars. All right, that's it. Thank you. I love you. Bye.